Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Jaya Radha, Giridhari Radha, Giridhari Radha. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivasakataya Asvatara Satashi Srimad Asa Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Rantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi. We'll continue reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. While trying to avoid further losses in New York, Prabhupada continued his active preaching in San Francisco. Mukunda and the others were lining up lots of engagements, and the reception was often enthusiastic. In the same confidential letter to Brahmananda, in which Prabhupada put forward his strategies for negotiating with Mr. Price and company, he also wrote glowingly of grand successful meetings at various Bay Area colleges. The meetings were similar, he said, to the wonderful kirtans in Tompkins Square Park. This was the way to spread Krishna consciousness, not by becoming entangled with treacherous real estate agents. I'm enclosing herewith, this is a quotation from Srila Prabhupada, I'm enclosing herewith a copy of the letter received from Himalayan Academy. See how they are appreciating our method of peace movement. So in this way, we have to forward our cause. No businessman will come forward to help us on utopian schemes as contemplated by Mr. Price. We have to try for ourselves. So the summary is to obtain a hire purchase sale contract from Mr. Tyler and popularize our movement by outdoor engagements, as many as possible. Srila Prabhupada had done what he could. The boys were foolish, even to the point of not listening to him. But they had raised the money themselves. If despite his instructions they lost it, what further help could he give? So he simply went on with his San Francisco preaching and advised the boys in New York also to become convinced of achieving success through kirtan. And tomorrow we start chapter 24, New Jagannath Puri. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're continuing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 29, talks between Narad and King Prachinabarhi. This is text 64. Nanubhutam Krachanena Dehan Adrishtam Ashrutam Kadachid Upalabhyeta Yadrupam Yadrig Atmani Nanubhutam Krachanena Dehin Adrishtam Ashrutam Kadachid Upalabhyeta Yadrupam Yadrig Atmani Nanubhutam Krachanena Dehin Adrishtam Ashrutam Kadachid Upalabhyeta Yadrupam Yadrig Atmani Nanubhutam Krachanena Dehin Adrishtam Ashrutam Kadachid Upalabhyeta Yadrupam Yadrig Atmani Nanubhutam Krachanena Dehin Adrishtam Ashrutam Kadachid Upalabhyeta Yadrupam Yadrig Atmani Nanubhutam Krachanena Dehin Adrishtam Ashrutam Kadachid Upalabhyeta Yadrupam Yadrig Atmani Nanubhutam Krachanena Dehin Adrishtam Ashrutam Kadachid Upalabhyeta Yadrupam Yadrig Atmani. Nanubhutam Krachanena Dehin Adrishtam Ashrutam Kadachid Upalabhyeta Yadrupam Yadrig Atmani. Word for word. Na, never. Anubhutam, experienced. Kva, at any time. Cha, also. Annena dehena, by this body. Adrishtam, never seen. Ashrutam, never heard. Kadachit, sometimes. Upalabhyeta, may be experienced. Yat, which. Rupam, form. Yadrik, whatever kind. Atmani, in the mind. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Sometimes we suddenly experience something that was never experienced in the present body by sight or hearing. Sometimes we see such things suddenly in dreams. Purport. In dreams, we sometimes see things that we have never experienced in the present body. Sometimes in dreams, we think that we are flying in the sky. although we have no experience of flying. This means that once in a previous life, either as a demigod or astronaut, we flew in the sky. The impression is there in the stockpile of the mind, and it suddenly expresses itself. It is like fermentation taking place in the depths of water, which sometimes manifests itself in bubbles on the water's surface. Sometimes we dream of coming to a place we have never known or experienced in this lifetime, but this is proof that in a past life we experienced this. The impression is kept within the mind and sometimes becomes manifest either in dream or in thought. The conclusion is that the mind is the storehouse of various thoughts and experiences undergone during our past lives. Thus, there is a chain of continuation from one life to another, from previous lives to this life, and from this life to future lives. This is also sometimes proved by saying that a man is a born poet, a born scientist, or a born devotee. If, like Maharaj Ambarish, we think of Krishna constantly in this life, Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo, we will certainly be transferred to the kingdom of God at the time of death. Even if our attempt to be Krishna conscious is not complete, our Krishna consciousness will continue in the next life. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 6:41. Prapya punya kritam lokan urshitva shashvati sama shuchinam shimatam gehe yoga prashto vijayate. The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. If we rigidly follow the principles of meditation on Krishna, there is no doubt that in our next life we will be transferred to Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan. So Prabhupada Gita. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master is kindly opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I really like this example that Srila Prabhupada gives in the purport, that it is like fermentation taking place in the depths of water, which sometimes manifests itself in bubbles on the water's surface. This is very vivid. We can imagine this, yes? Sometimes you see that in the water, it looks like still water, and then there are some bubbles. Yeah? So in this verse and purport today, we're learning that the mind is the stockpile, or the storehouse, actually. Prabhupada says the storehouse of the stockpile of experiences and impressions from so many lives. So this is, we've been hearing in the previous verses, how the mind is carried with the living entity lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And we have practical experience of that in our life, as Srila Prabhupada explained. Sometimes in dreams we experience something in a dream that we've never experienced in this life. We may have repeated dreams, of the same place or of the same experience. And this is coming from the mind due to our experiences in previous lives. And this is evidence for us of just how powerful a force the mind is. Yeah? We can't remember anything like this happening in this life. And yet the mind is storing impressions from countless lives before. So we are traversing through our life with this very powerful instrument with us all the time. The mind is so powerful, actually. And this is why we learn throughout the Shastra, that the mind has the potentiality to lead us towards the liberation or to drag us down, as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter, that one should use the mind to advance, that the mind can be the friend, the mind can be a cause of liberation, not of degradation. But this is something that requires practice. As Arjuna puts forward to Krishna after Krishna gives him so many wonderful instructions on controlling the mind. And what does Arjuna say? The greatest warrior, the greatest devotee, the Lord's intimate friend. He says, oh, Krishna, this sounds more difficult than even to control the wind. The mind is restless, it's fickle, it's unsteady. And these are the qualities of the mind. These are the intrinsic qualities of the mind. But also, interestingly, in Srimad Bhagavatam, it states that the mind is naturally, is essentially in the mode of goodness. So our mind can really be such a powerful tool for advancement, actually. And yet, due to our contact with the material energy and due to our identification with the mind, then we struggle. Because what does Krishna say to Arjuna when he puts forward this argument? Oh, Krishna, controlling the mind more difficult than to control the wind. Krishna says in the following verse, he says, yes, it's undoubtedly very difficult to control the mind, but it is possible by two things. Do we remember? Yeah, suitable practice and detachment. Yeah. So we need to take the method of practice for controlling the mind, which is engaging it in Krishna service. Yeah, we need to engage the mind because the mind is, when we think about these qualities of the mind, that it is restless, it is fickle, it's always changing. The mind is rejecting something, it's accepting something. It's kind of like a naughty toddler. It's kind of like a young child who is, when a child wants something, just wants it. It doesn't really think about the consequences or anything like that. And so if we think of the mind, so this is the detachment principle, if we think of the mind as separate from us, so it's not us, the mind is its own entity, right? If we can think of the mind in that way, that the mind is something, it's its whole own thing. It's separate from me. It's not me, and I don't have to identify with it. But this takes a lot of practice. Yeah. So the practice for controlling the mind is to engage it in Krishna's service. We need to engage the mind, as Prabhupada says here, if we rigidly follow the principles of meditation on Krishna. So we do that internally, we do that through using our senses in Krishna's service, but it's constant. It needs to be continuous. As we learn in Bhagavatam, what is that quality of devotional service that we aspire for and we need to get to is that it is uninterrupted. It's constant. So this is where we practice, as Srila Prabhupada has instructed, so many ways, bringing the mind back. It's going to wander. That's its quality. So also when it wanders, we shouldn't be too much distressed by that. And this is another side of attachment or identifying with the mind. Oh, the mind is it's causing me so much trouble. It's really, actually, it's just going to do its thing. So the quality of the mind is that it's flickering, unsteady. There's, acceptance, rejection, all this is going to go on. But that can go on. If we think about the mind as a separate entity, we can, okay, you pat the toddler on the head and, it will be okay. And you get on about your business. So we can practice detachment in regards to the mind by understanding the qualities of the mind. And I was speaking to one very senior devotee the other day, and she was sharing with me how she's really made it into a practice that when she is able to bring the mind back, particularly during japa, we're talking about japa, but particularly during japa when the mind wanders, every time she brings the mind back, yes, encourage the self, not oh, I've been chanting for so many years, why is my mind still wandering, and getting into that kind of mentality, but actually, oh, thank you, Krishna. I was able to bring the mind back. Thank you, Krishna. And more, and when she was describing this to me, I said, actually, this is detachment from the mind, isn't it? It's a quality that Krishna wants us to practice. So this suitable practice, engaging our senses, engaging our mind in Krishna's service, drawing the mind back. When it does its natural flickering, we just bring it back. And then we're reading in Shruti Kirti Prabhu's What is the Difficulty, when one devotee presented this problem to Srila Prabhupada, which I'm sure many people presented to him, and we all have the same problem. My mind when I chant, what do I do with my mind when I chant? And Srila Prabhupada just said to him, you chant and you hear, what is the question of mind? So in one sense, it can be very, very simple, that we just need to draw it back and not get taken away by the mind's natural wanderings. Draw it back, and then don't be hard on yourself. Just draw it back, continually draw it back. And then with time, with that practice, more detachment develops, and then the more focus and concentration will be there. But Krishna has given us these practices. And this is such an interesting point, actually, that these impressions are there in the mind. So also, even after many, many years of practice, sometimes a thought may come up from somewhere, or a dream of something that's a bit distressing, disturbing. Think, oh, why is that still there? I've been practicing, so why is that still coming up for me? But we can understand this quality of the mind, that it is a storehouse of impressions, and that during this lifetime, we're filling up the mind even with more impressions from our experiences in this lifetime. So if our determination in this lifetime is to try to become Krishna conscious, then our mind is being filled up with impressions of that, with impressions of our service, our meditation on Krishna, festivals, intense experiences. When we have these very wonderful, deep experiences in Krishna consciousness, this is making those impressions in the mind. And those impressions will last. And even as Srila Prabhupada says here, he quotes this verse from the Bhagavad Gita, that even if for some reason we can't complete our Krishna consciousness in this life, although Prabhupada gives us the assurance that we can, we should always have this determination and this confidence that I can. Prabhupada says, even in the last verse here, in the last line, of the purport, there's no doubt in the next life we'll be transferred to Krishna Loka. So that's always there for us. That even Prabhupada says, and this should just give us so much confidence and so much hope, right? That even if our attempt to be Krishna conscious is not complete for some reason, our Krishna consciousness will continue in the next life. So everything that we are working for, we are on this pathway towards it. The goal is definitely there. It's absolutely there. And whether it's this life, next life, but we can hold firmly in our heart that Srila Prabhupada has given us the assurance that this life, if we follow the process of Krishna consciousness, then in this life, actually, we can go back to Godhead, which is such an amazing such an amazing aspiration and such an amazing promise by our parampara. When I was thinking about this class and thinking about how there are so many things we can experience in dreams. And Prabhupada says that, you know, in dreams we may think that we are flying, and perhaps this has been our experience in a past life. And he also says in different places in the Bhagavatam, dreams can also be combined previous experiences, right? You've seen a mountain and you've seen gold, so you dream of a golden mountain, one of Prabhupada's examples. But also we know that for a devotee, dreams of Krishna and dreams of Krishna's devotees, Krishna's service, are very, very special. And we can see that from the potency of devotional service, that even during sleeping or resting, devotees can have very intense spiritual experiences and dreams of Krishna. Krishna can give instructions in different ways. And so I wanted to share one pastime of an extraordinary devotee, Srimati Puri. So I was thinking also in sharing this, sometimes it's like when we read the examples of these pure devotees in the Shastra, we may think, oh, they're so far away from me, you know, how can I relate to their experience of Krishna consciousness? But as Srila Prabhupada says here, and he gives us that confidence, actually through the mercy of the parampara and through the mercy of these great devotees, we have the opportunity to experience those things. Of course, we're never going to imitate the great devotees, but we can always follow along behind them. And this is our process. And so by hearing about the lives of these extraordinary personalities, we can think, oh, Krishna, if I just get like one drop of what they're experiencing, if I can have one drop of their devotion, then life will be perfect. So I always find personally that reading the accounts of great devotees actually gives me a lot of hope, gives me a lot of inspiration. I think, wow, these accounts, we shouldn't think that they're so far away that they're untouchable for us. We should read them, we can meditate on them, and we can meditate on following along in the footprints that they've left for us. And this is our whole parampara system. Yeah, we're just following along with the greatness that's ahead of us. So I wanted to share this pastime because, as I'm sure everyone will remember, Srimati Puri, he has some wonderful experiences of instruction coming through dreams. And he, if we all remember, he is such an extraordinary personality. So when we read about this section in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, actually Lord Chaitanya is speaking this. He's glorifying Srimati Puri. So this is just how dear he is to the Lord, that the Lord himself is enjoying glorifying him amongst his intimate devotees. So it starts in Chaitanya Charitamrita from the Madhya Lila. It starts when Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, and some other confidential associates, they're traveling to Jagannath Puri, and they've stopped in the town of Ramuna, where the Gopinath deity is. Right? And then Lord Chaitanya begins to speak about Madhavendra Puri, and all the devotees are just entranced by this pastime on Madhavendra Puri. So Lord Chaitanya tells that Madhavendra Puri, he was traveling and he came to Vrindavan. Now, Madhavendra Puri, he would always travel alone, he would always stay alone, and he would never beg for food. So he was just completely transcendental. He was completely detached and completely absorbed in Krishna's service. So he would never beg. And when he arrived in Vrindavan, if somebody would give him food, he would accept it and eat. Otherwise, he would fast, completely beyond the body. So when he arrived in Vrindavan, he was meditating on Krishna's pastimes. He was underneath the tree. He walked around different places in Vrindavan, and then he sat down underneath the tree. And he couldn't rest. He barely slept. He wasn't resting, he was chanting and meditating on Krishna. And then a beautiful young cowherd boy came along and offered him a pot of milk to drink. And Madhavendra Puri was very charmed by this boy, and he was speaking with him and asking, but how did you know I was even here? You know? And the cowherd boy said, well, some ladies in the village, they noticed you here, and they came and told me to bring you this milk. Because in our village, in Vrindavan, nobody fasts. Everybody gets prasad. So the ladies told me to bring you this milk, and the cowherd boy said, okay, I need to go and herd my cows now, so I'll come back later and pick up the pot. I'll collect the pot. So Sri Madhavendra Puri, with great pleasure, he drank the milk and he washed the pot and he kept the pot. And he stayed underneath that tree all night, you know, waiting for this young boy to come back and collect the pot. But he didn't show up. He didn't come. And Madhavendra Puri, it's described that towards the end of the night, he dozed a little bit. And when he was dozing, he saw this beautiful young boy again, came in his dream. Yeah. And he said to him, actually, I've been waiting for you to come. How's that, you know? The Lord is waiting for his devotee to appear. It's so sweet. So, and the boy explained to him, I am here, I am in the jungle, and I'm very uncomfortable. I'm hot, I am hungry, I have been left there, and you should bring the townspeople and get me out of the jungle and put me on top of Govardhan Hill and install me there. I am Gopal. And so Madhavendra Puri, when he awoke from this dream, he was astonished and he was crying that Krishna came and gave me milk, and I didn't recognize him. Oh, what a feeling for Sri Madhavendra Puri. So he cried for some time, but then he fixed the mind on the instruction of the Lord. So what did he do with that pot? Does anyone remember what he does with the pot? Yes, he kept that pot that Krishna had given him the milk in. He kept the pot, he broke it into pieces, and he tied it in his cloth. And every day he would eat one piece of that pot, given to him directly from the Lord. So he gathered the village people, and they found Gopal, and they brought him out with great difficulty, brought him out of the forest, and installed Gopal on Govardhan Hill. They built a small temple there for him. They held this wonderful festival, the Acyuta festival. Yes, just as Krishna had held this festival for Govardhan Hill, Madhavendra Puri, he held this festival for Gopal, who was on top of Govardhan Hill. And it's described that for days and days and days and days, this festival was going on, that all of the village people nearby, they brought all of their grains, their milk, all of their products, and then brahmanas would cook, it would be offered. And then the surrounding villagers also heard that Gopal was there on Govardhan Hill, so they also wanted to do the festival. So the next day, another group would come, and then another group, and another group, and so this festival was held continuously. And one thing that Gopal had said to Madhavendra Puri in the dream was that he was very, very hot. He was uncomfortable because he had been covered in dirt and hidden in the jungle for so long. So they performed like continuous abhishek for him, trying to cool his body. So everything was going on very nicely. It's described, some very upstanding brahmanas from Bengal arrived, and Madhavendra Puri initiated them. They became the pujaris for Gopal. Everything was going along. And then Madhavendra Puri had another dream, that the Lord Gopal, he came to him again in his dream. And he said to him, I'm installed there, I've been washed so many times, I'm still feeling hot. I'm still very hot. So please, can you get sandalwood for me? And you can make the sandalwood paste, you know, and cool my body down. Apply it all over my body sandalwood and camphor, the Lord requested, and put it all over my body, and that will cool me down. And he specifically requested the sandalwood from Jagannath Puri, from the Malayan region there. So again, I mean, we just think of the fortune of Madhavendra Puri, yeah? The devotion and the great fortune. The Lord is appearing to him and giving him instructions like this. So Madhavendra Puri, straight away, as soon as he got up in the morning, he made sure everything was arranged for Gopal's service there at Govardhan, and he left, going towards Jagannath Puri, which is a great distance. You know, it's not just down the road. This was a big trip that he took on. So he was traveling, Madhavendra Puri was traveling, and he came to the area where Advaita Acharya lived. He met Advaita Acharya, and this is when Advaita Acharya was initiated by Sri Madhavendra Puri at this time. So we also remember that Madhavendra Puri also initiated the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ishvara Puri. So what a personality. He traveled and he went also to this town of Ramuna, yes? And he saw the deity there. He went to the temple and he saw the Gopinath deity. Now, Gopinath was so beautiful. It was so beautiful that Madhavendra Puri was just struck with wonder and love for the Lord. And when he had arrived in the temple, he was chanting, he was dancing. Madhavendra Puri is always absorbed in ecstatic love for the Lord. And it was the time where the Lord was being offered different preparations. And Madhavendra Puri, being absorbed in service, he was always thinking how he can improve his service to Lord Gopal. So he was asking the pujari there, what kind of preparations do you offer? How are things made? He's trying to, just when devotees meet each other, and what kind of service do you do? How can I learn from you? How can we stir the pot of rasa for serving Krishna? So Madhavendra Puri was asking about the different preparations, and the pujari was telling him that they serve this one particular sweet rice to Lord Gopinath every evening, and it's offered in 12 earthen pots, and it's called Amrita Kali. That's it, because it tastes like nectar. And at that time was just time for that offering of the sweet rice. So the sweet rice was being taken onto the altar, and Madhavendra Puri, he thought, if I could just taste a little bit of the offered sweet rice, then I will know how to make it and I can offer it to Gopal. So he was not at all thinking of like, I want to enjoy the Lord's offering. Sometimes we might be like, oh, but as soon as he had that thought, he was instantly he couldn't believe that he had that thought, because the sweet rice was being taken onto the altar, was in the process of being offered to the Lord. So he considered it a great offense that he had desired to eat something that was still being offered. So after the arati, after the offering and the arati was finished, he left the temple and he went to a vacant place, and he was sitting and he was chanting, and he stayed there. Now, later that evening, so after the pujari had done the offering of the sweet rice, he had taken the pots off, he cleaned the altar, he put the Lord to rest, and he went to take rest also. So when the pujari was sleeping, again, what a fortunate pujari. So when the pujari was resting, the Lord came to him in a dream, and it was Gopinath. And I love how Prabhupada writes actually in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's so sweet. So the pujari dreamed Gopinath was speaking to him. And Gopinath said to him, I have kept one pot of sweet rice for my devotee, Madhavendra Puri. Now I've kept it behind the curtain, and you did not see it because of my tricks. And he said, "I want you to come, take the sweet rice, find Madhavendra Puri and give it to him." So the Pujari woke up and was again, Pujari's in ecstasy. Wow. But being a very good Pujari, he went and took a shower, and then he went onto the altar and he found behind the curtain there was a pot of sweet rice. And so he went out in the night into the town and he's calling out, "Where is the devotee named Madhavendra Puri? You're the most fortunate person in all the three worlds. Where is Madhavendra Puri?" He's going around. And eventually Madhavendra Puri heard him calling, and the Pujari came and just offered his full dandavats and gave Madhavendra Puri this pot of sweet rice and explained the situation, explained what had happened. And Madhavendra Puri was in ecstasy and he honored the sweet rice. And out of his natural humility, he decided to leave the town that evening because he thought when people hear about this, there's going to be a big scene, and he didn't want that. So he continued on and he arrived in Jagannath Puri, and he was able to collect the sandalwood and the camphor and get all the papers of clearance and everything that he needed to travel back to Govardhan to offer this to Lord Gopal. And it was a difficult journey. This was not an easy thing for Madhavendra Puri. It was very heavy, actually. I can't remember what the descriptions were of how much he had to carry, but it was a lot. It wasn't like a little bit of sandalwood. He was carrying a lot of weight. He had to travel through dangerous areas, and there were guards that he had to show the release papers to. It was a big thing. So when he was traveling back, he stopped again and saw the Gopinath deity. And when he was there, he had another dream. And Gopal again gave him instruction that you've undergone so much trouble for me, and I accept your offering. You stay there and you offer all of that sandalwood and camphor, you mix it and you offer it to the body of Gopinath. And because he and I are identical, I will then feel the cooling effect. And you stay there and make sure that it happens. So Madhavendra Puri, again, he takes that instruction from the Lord and he stayed there until all of the sandalwood and camphor was offered to the deity. And then after that, he traveled back to Vrindavan. So this is a very wonderful pastime for so many reasons. It's a very, very wonderful pastime. But my reason in sharing it today is that, as Prabhupada says, when our meditation on Krishna is fixed, yes, then there's no doubt, there's no doubt that in our next life we'll be transferred to Golok Vrindavan. And we can see the example of devotees such as Madhavendra Puri. He's in Vrindavan in this life, yes? His consciousness is completely Krishna conscious, so much so that the Lord will give him instructions in dreams. In this section we're hearing about, in our dreams we're getting the effects of this stockpile of experiences that sometimes may be, favorable, that sometimes may be a bit distressing. But with advancement in Krishna consciousness, with time, with our meditation on Krishna, then more and more these experiences, even such things as dreams, can become transcendental. It can become much more Krishna conscious based on our application of the process of Krishna consciousness and our meditation on Krishna. So there are so many ways in which we can meditate on Krishna. Yeah? And Srila Prabhupada's given us the Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, all of his books, so that we can, even though these accounts of devotees and their experiences are so far beyond ours, we can read them, we can study them, we can meditate upon them. We can think, what is this quality of a devotee such as Madhavendra Puri that makes the Lord so indebted to him that he was waiting for him to arrive in Vrindavan, the Lord actually said, I've been waiting for you. Yeah. That he would appear to him personally to feed him. He would appear to him in dreams several times and give him direct instructions how to serve. What is the quality of that devotee? Wow, we can't imagine. But this is something that we can use. This is a great tool that Prabhupada has given us to increase our attraction for Krishna, increase our attraction for Krishna's devotees. That we can get together and discuss about Krishna's devotees, Krishna's wonderful devotees. And in that way, and back to the purport today, in that way we're making these impressions on our mind, which is going to stay with us and carry us through to our next life and beyond. We're making these impressions that then hopefully they'll be the things that will bubble up to the surface. Yes? Our little experiences of attraction for Krishna, attraction for Krishna's devotees, those are the things that can rise to the surface more and more, depending on our meditation on Krishna and our dedication to our own practice of Krishna consciousness. I think I'll stop talking and leave it there. Would anyone like to make a comment, share their experiences, ask a question? Very welcome. I'll read the verse again. Sometimes we suddenly experience something that was never experienced in the present body by sight or hearing. Sometimes we see such things suddenly in dreams. Nothing further today? Okay. Gantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nantakoti Vaishnavin ki jai.